Hey guys, CaptainShack here. So, as of writing this script, I'm sitting on a plane returning from E3, having a lovely chat with a fairly well-known porn star. What I find funny is after having sat through multiple Uber rides to and from the convention center in LA and talking with an untold number of movie industry-related people who do Uber driving as, and I quote this, part-time gig, I find I have more in common with a porn star than I do movie and TV show production professionals. Now hear me out for just a second. We chatted about search engine optimization, building a following, marketing a brand, even merchandise. Though our idea of products differ greatly, no, you won't be seeing any XP Gamer sex toys hitting the market anytime soon, it is nevertheless an interesting conversation. Anywho, let's talk about Sandbox MMOs. Yes, this video is another video excuse for me to disappointingly talk about Sandbox titles of yesteryear, which will inevitably round about to Star Wars Galaxies and the corporate public hanging on the altar of you should be less you game and more World of Warcraft because you know, money. Make me some of that good old WoW cash. Let's simplify the shit out of this thing and sell it to the drooling masses. That happened quicker than I expected. Not more than a minute into the video and I've already vented my Star Wars Galaxies frustration. I mean, fuck me, when are we gonna get a proper Star Wars Sandbox MMO? And the Old Republic doesn't count to me as an MMO, let alone a sandbox one. A proper Sandbox MMO is any sandbox game that allows the player to tell his or her own story, creating a character of his or her choosing, selecting looks, skills, tools, and then setting out into a world to interact or not with the players in that universe. Think of it like being given a kitchen and being told, make anything you want. Sure, your story could be as rich and delicious as you can make it, or a shallow and soggy mess of disappointment and regret, but at least it's your regret. It all really comes down to effort and the effort you're willing to put into it, much like all things in life, I imagine. Getting back to the Old Republic, instead of having the full run of a kitchen with tools and food at your disposal, you'll be picking out of a Taco Bell drive-thru menu. No matter what you pick, you're going down the same lane as everyone else and most likely walking away disappointed, and at worst walking away with a horrible case of explosive Siths coming out of your dark side. A menu of 4 dialogue responses, all of which have you slogging through tired old game mechanics from a game 15 years its senior, does not a good MMO make. If anything, I look at the Old Republic as a quality, cooperative single-player experience that just happens to have a very large lobby of hundreds that you barely, if at all, interact with outside of, typing /dance naked in the center of Coruscant. My immersion! Still, better story than the prequels, I'll give you that much. No, I don't mean the stories from that game, I'm talking about the guy dancing naked. In Star Wars Galaxies, players formed groups that actually existed in the universe because they love that universe. Rebel cells from Talos raiding Stormtrooper RP groups that were doing patrols on the mean streets of Mos Inthha was an ongoing plot full of intrigue and suspense, and much less dancing in the streets. Sure, not all the mechanics in the game supported this kind of gameplay, there were no legitimate objectives to fight over in those streets, and killing NPC stormtroopers left little in the way of a true victory for the rebellion. But it didn't matter because we had a chance to do the one thing that gaming has been trying to do for any universe, including Star Wars, for years. Live and exist like we were a part of it. Not just a narrow cutout of an immortal soldier's life moments before his death, an inexplicable resurrection to be killed again and again to capture some arbitrary dot on a map. Yeah, Battlefront, I'm looking at you. Dying and coming back from the great beyond so many times in a single battle that Jesus himself would be impressed and hand over his holiday just to stop the madness. Imagine if a game today came out with the mechanics that actually supported the idea of existing in its chosen universe in the way that you want to. Not focused squarely on a single sellable unoriginal design philosophy. The shooter, the strategy game, the open world exploration title where you climb towers to collect fast travel points, and collect some garbage off the street and occasionally run a story mission. Yeah, I just picked up Shadows of Mordor, which is fantastic by the way, but it suffers from the same problem. We systemized even the open world games to the point of checkboxes. So much so that even when a new design comes up from, say, a proven seller like Minecraft, the big boys still won't even look at it as a possible model to rip off and repackage. Imagine if a big, well-funded company attempted a crafting sandbox game with the graphical art teams and sound designers of, say, a Battlefield title. But you won't, because that doesn't fit the established mold. And I do mean mold. As in growing in the corners of your cousin's nasty bathroom like something out of the ship from Aliens, only furrier. Ugh. Ultima Online was one of the first popular mainstream MMOs, not in a post-World of Warcraft mainstream, but in a, hey, more people than a small online forum know about this thing, and it's not hosted on AOL. It managed to reach a relatively large audience. Still, it's even got servers running today. Its early goals were to build a fantasy world for players to enjoy. Areas like combat, taming, skills, housing, sailing, crafting, map design had equal time and thought developed applied to them because it was more about building the world itself than, say, one single key feature. Not focusing on one feature and hanging your hat on it like riffs and then naming your game after them. Ugh, story, PvP, voice acting, the base IP it's on. Don't even get me started on Eve. I can do a separate rant about that title, but at least it kept its focus squarely on making the player play a role in the universe. Now think about that for a second. The last time you played an MMO, how often did you actually play the role as a character in the world? And no, I don't mean the role as defined by the mechanic you're used as, and that just makes you sound like a tool. I mean the literal sense of a tool, by the way, like a wrench or a screwdriver, maybe even a plunger. On second thought, you can take that any way you want. Say you're a cleric, or a paladin of the Church of Bacon-Loving. How often did you do anything to further your character's religious beliefs about the might and glory of bacon? How often did you expand the Bacon Church's power and influence as a mighty holy warrior? Okay, now how often did you talk about your character's ability to play whack-a-mole on your character's health bars like a shit game at Chuck E. Cheese? Congratulations! Your mighty holy warrior is nothing but a well-dressed plunger pumping the life back into the hammer, screwdriver, and nail gun of your would-be team of heroes. Now look at Eve. Just about everything you're doing for a reason that makes sense in the universe. Fighting NPC missions, those missions pay ISK. They can be used for more than just unlocking the next bit of gear that you'll quickly replace. Mining? No idea why you'd be doing that, but it's supplying the global economy to be used for ships and wars and territory advancement. Even if it's as entertaining as watching paint dry on a live stream while sitting in a dentist chair in Mexico. Trust me, I could rant about Eve and its issues all day long, but at least you get to play as a character in a lore-driven universe. And when discussing aspects of Eve with a friend, say ship damage, ISK, income, enemy deployments, even fucking mining, or ship setups, those conversations, though unintentional, are in a sense role-playing. Through game mechanics that make fucking sense in the actual world, you're talking about things that matter in the game, and not meta information. You're not repeating the same goddamn dungeon for the 18th time to get some random loot drop that you'll replace in the next mission. From the fleet commander of thousands to the noob in the tutorial getting his pilot license, these events help push players into playing in that universe that feels more than the sum of its parts, and allows players to play in the kitchen. So I guess my point in all of this is don't be a plunger and demand access to the kitchen. Ah, fuck, that made more sense in my head.